So the class is being recorded as usual, and my name is Dr. Sameh Galil, and this is A230A, and this is our second class in the second semester of the academic year 2024-25. So what is it that we're doing today or this morning? We're doing Othello. We're starting the course proper. Last time it was an introduction to the age. So can you keep your chatting to a minimum because it can be very disruptive? So again, if you would like to ask a question, whether it's content inspired or even procedural, you can come to the mic and share it with us. Again, I was talking about our agenda this morning, and I said that we're doing Othello. And we're trying to kind of apply all the concepts and the ideas that we spoke about last time. Do you still remember any of the ideas that we spoke about last time? Come to the mic. Fear nothing. I mean, we're obviously not taxing, we're not judging people. Come to the mic and share what you remember about last time, if any. Yeah, Tahani. Yeah, go ahead.
We talk about renaissance.
The Renaissance, about the Renaissance, yeah.
Yes, and we have two general play, mystery play and morality plays.
Yeah, we said that those belong to the medieval period or the Middle Ages, but we still have their influence on Renaissance drama, right?
Yes,
Good.
and we study tragedy, the
Yeah,
definition to tragedy.
tragedy, you mean?
Yes, tragedy.
Yeah, tragedy. We did speak about tragedy and what tragedy is and what stands for. Excellent, mashallah. You remember a lot, Yatahani. Thank you so much. Can we have somebody else? We have also Mariam. Go ahead.
Yeah, we talked about how the ancient Greek and Roman drama influenced the ones in the Renaissance period. So they skipped the medieval period and went straight to the more ancient times.
Yeah, which is obviously good news because the focus in the medieval times or the Middle Ages was on religion, on interpreting everything in terms of religion. And we said that this is good and everything, but there is obviously more to life than just religion, right? Um, yeah, I mean, Mariam rightly said that we have the huge influence of Greek drama, especially Greek drama, on the Renaissance, especially when it comes to tragedy and what tragedy means. And right, good. What else and who else? Yeah, Tahani, you're still raising your hand. Would you like to add more?
Yes, we study about Taxit William Shakespeare.
We don't study about something. We study something straight away. We don't discuss about something. We discuss something right away. So drop the about thing. No, you don't need the
Okay,
preposition about. You what did
okay.
we study? What did you say we studied last time?
The text.
The text
You
itself?
meaning me?
You
Yes.
mean, yeah.
Text about the William Shakespeare write it.
You mean Othello?
Yes.
Yeah, we started talking about it. Actually, we didn't go far enough, obviously, because this was only the an initial meeting, but we're doing more, I promise you, this time around. Okay, Tahani. I think Mariam was also raising her hand again. Mariam, if you would like to add.
Oh no, I changed my mind.
Okay, yeah. Tahani, yeah, very good. Yeah, I was about to ask you to drop your hand. Okay, so this is actually what we're doing this time around. We're focused more on Othello as a representations of Renaissance drama, more specifically a representation of Elizabethan drama. Of course, you still remember that when I talk about the Elizabethan age, and I also talk about the Renaissance or the early modern times, right? And this period or that period had a number of characteristics. Among them would be the idea that people were more open to other branches of knowledge other than religion. There was science flourishing. There was geographical discoveries beyond the continent, and beyond Europe. There was military might, if you like. So it was a totally different time in terms of the progress and the development that people were experiencing at the time. Again, this was on the watch of Queen Elizabeth I. Had it not been for the open-mindedness of Queen Elizabeth, that wouldn't have happened. So as a representation of the age, we have Othello, and Othello is a play by the high and mighty William Shakespeare. We spoke about William Shakespeare and we said that he is such a gigantic figure when it comes to the history of English and world literature. He wrote so many plays, what, 27 or 10. I'm confusing. So many plays, and those plays are kindly classified um, into different genres. You would have um, tragedies, of course. You would have history plays. You would have comedies, romantic comedies, and he also wrote poems, and he was using the form of the sonnet. So this was Shakespeare, and what we're doing for Shakespeare is Othello. Othello is a play, and it is a tragedy, as we are going to see. I remember very vividly that I asked you to go out of your ways and try to have a good knowledge of the play in terms of plot, and I said that you can do two things in parallel. You can start reading the text, the original text, and I said that this is going to perhaps take time, but you need to do it so that you can get familiar with the culture and everything. And in the meantime, you need to read a good summary, which I assume you did. So how much do we know about Othello? I'm talking about the plot. Mariam?
So the play starts it begins in Venice, and it begins with Iago and Roderigo discussing something, and it's still not clear what exactly they're talking about, and it then becomes revealed that Iago is mad about he's mad at Othello, who is a superior general. He promoted a guy named Cassio, and Iago became jealous of that, so he decided to take a revenge on Othello. And also
Yeah.
Roderigo turned out to wanted to marry Desdemona, who is a wife of Othello. And then they plotted a scheme to make Othello feel that Desdemona is unfaithful to him. And also, turns out that Iago also feels that Othello is cheating, is that Emilia cheats on him with Othello. At the end, and in the end, it's Roderigo, no, I'm sorry.
That's fine. You're doing an
Iago,
excellent job. Yeah,
Iago
go on.
manages to make Othello think that his wife Desdemona is cheating on him by dropping a handkerchief and making me think that she dropped him when she was with him. Eventually, Othello becomes consumed by his jealousy, and he ends up killing his own wife, even though she wasn't cheating on him. After
Yeah.
that, he found out that she was actually faithful to him, and he kills himself.
Yeah,
And
which
no
is
one
very
gets a
sad
happy,
and very
and no one gets
unfortunate.
a happy ending in the play.
Yeah. How did you feel when you have read that,
A little
Mariam?
bit disappointed.
Depressed, I would say, right? It's not a
Yeah,
very good, it's not a very good start, right?
yeah. But it's
Yeah.
normal, like, can you blame them?
No, I cannot. Okay, yeah. Yeah, actually, Mariam beautifully summed up everything. She did an excellent job giving us a very good summary of what actually happened. So it's a lot of what. I mean, what can we make out of this? If we talk about patterns, if we talk about themes and topics, given what Mariam said. So what pops up? What ideas you think we're going to focus on? And I'm leaving. Yeah. Can we have other people? We need to involve and engage everyone. Like I said, we're not, let me put this disclaimer, we're not taxing or judging anyone. Come to the mic and say whatever you want to say. Okay? So out of the plot summary that we were given by Mariam, what do you think will stand out as themes and topics?
Well, we have many theme in this
Yeah,
play.
yeah,
Jealousy,
yeah, the idea of jealousy, yes.
yes, and love and loyalty, and
Loyalty and faithfulness, fidelity. I mean, when you have fidelity towards your spouse, yeah, this is yeah one of the themes that we'll have. Okay, so again, it's jealousy and fidelity, like you guys are saying. Yeah, love again and impediments. Impediments are obstacles that lovers normally face, right? Um, yeah, thank you so much, Tahani. Mariam,
Interracial relationship.
and yeah, enter what?
Interracial
Ah,
relationship,
yeah,
like
yeah,
between different
yeah,
races.
yeah, interracial and interfaith relationships. Yeah, absolutely. Where, as we're going to see, we have two different people. They come from two different, um, races. One of them is black and the other is white. And whether society will approve of that or not, this is what we are discussing and seeing and exploring as we proceed. Thank you so much. Remember that we have this is the plot, and this plot can be written in a novel format, and it can be a novel, right? It can also be a poem. I don't know why, how, but it can also be a poem. And it can be a play. It was made into a play, and Shakespeare so fit that the framework of tragedy is the best for that, the best fit for this kind of play. Okay, remember what we said about tragedy as a framework and why you think this framework is the best fit for this kind of play. Remember what we said about what a tragedy is?
Yes.
Yeah. So what's a tragedy?
It's a genre of literature that means when a noble character, usually like from a higher class, receives a bad ending. Either he dies or something very bad happened to him and those who are around him, usually because of his own deeds.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, the problem is it's a self-inflicted kind of problem or error, right? Again, we're moving from fortune to misfortune, from happiness to adversity. And of course, we have the trajectory, we have whatever is in the middle, and whatever is in the middle is what leads to this sad end that we're having, right? So what is in the middle would be the errors that this character makes, and we said one of those errors happens to be fatal or deadly, leading to the downfall of this kind of character at the end. That's why we're calling him the tragic hero. He is a hero, but he is a tragic one. At the end, we feel, of course, sad. We have those feelings of pity and fear, and those are um, you know, purposes, aims of tragedy. You have to arrive at this stage where you feel pity and fear, and we'll expand on this idea of pity and fear, which is part of what we call catharsis at one point, tathir or purgation of excessive feelings. So let's go and check that out. Before we do just that, I would like to share the calendar with you. I have received the updated calendar. Let's talk about it and then move to the play right away. So this is the calendar and it is updated. This is the second semester, 2024, 2025.
Doctor.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not sharing.
Again,
It's good
yes.
that you have reminded me. It happens with me so often. Yeah. So can you see it now? Yeah, can you see the calendar, everyone?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the
Yes.
calendar. Yeah. We started last week and it was week one where we started with an introduction. And the book that we're using obviously is Renaissance and the long 18th century. We started with the introduction. We went all the way back to the Middle Ages and even beyond. We even went to ancient Greece and Rome. And then today or week two, we're doing Othello by William Shakespeare. And we're doing the play and we're doing a textbook that has chapters reflecting on the play and discussing it and everything in between. So the title of the textbook chapter is Impediments to Love. And then when we move to week three, we still have Othello because it's big, and we're having another or a different chapter. It's Honesty and Difference, Men and Women, and it's from the same textbook. And then when we're done with Othello, we move all the way to week four, where we're doing The Duchess of Malfi by John Webster. This is the Jacobean Age, which is the time shortly after the Elizabethan age. We have a different monarch. Yeah, different monarch, but the same social structure, the same ideas and ideologies. So it's the Duchess of Malfi that we're doing as of week four, everyone. And we're doing two chapters. One of them is Love and Marriage in the Malfi Court. And in week five, we're doing another chapter with the title Tragic Conflict. And that would mark the end of the Duchess of Malfi. And then we move on as of week six to Voltaire, and we're doing Candide or Optimism by the French philosopher Voltaire. We're doing Candide in weeks 6 and 7, and then that would mark the end of our endeavors before the midterm. So the midterm is going to be on these different chapters, on these different plays with and novellas, Othello, The Duchess of Malfi, and Candide. So when we come back from the MTA or the midterm exam, we're going to start a totally different genre, and it's going to be poetry. We're starting with William Wordsworth and the Romantics. We're doing that in weeks 9 or 10, where we're doing a number of poems by William Wordsworth, like The Daffodils. We're doing William Wordsworth and his poems for a couple of weeks. And then when we're done, we'll go all the way to Shelley. And with Shelley, we're doing also a number of poems, and those poems reflect his views on art and the vocation of the poet. And there is also some talk about his, political and social poem. So we're doing both when it comes to Shelley, and then we end up with a romantic novel, and the romantic novel that we have is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. And that would conclude everything. With Frankenstein, we're ending the course. So you find the experience enriching and very edifying, I promise you. So what do we have in terms of assessment? We have two quizzes. The first quiz is out of 5, and it is more or less LMS based, where you do the quiz online, and it's multiple choice for the most part. And then we move on to the second quiz, which has to be done at the university, which means that you need to come to the university and do the exam because it's paper based. And it's out of 10 essays that you're going to write. You will give you two choices, and you write on one of them. What is it that you write? You write an essay. So these are the quizzes, and then of course we have the midterm in the middle out of 30, and it is also campus-based. You have to come to the university and do it, and it's out of 30. And it's essays that you're going to write. And then the final exam at the end out of 50, and it is also at the university. You have to physically come and attempt the final exam. This is all about the course calendar. I'm open to questions about that if you have any. Well, Ahmed, go ahead.
Please, doctor, where can I find the book of the course?
Everything is on the central LMS. The central LMS, when you go to the LMS, you'll have like an icon or a button on the left, up there. You click it, and it takes you to the central LMS, where you're going to find lots of material. Okay, any more questions before I proceed? Okay, so obviously we don't have any as of now. So this is A230A, everyone, and my name is Dr. Sameh Abdel Jalil, and this is my email. Perhaps you need to note it down, you may need it. I also send you emails. You don't have to worry if you don't have a pen or a pencil handy. Okay, so we're focusing on Renaissance drama, and we're doing that. I mean, we're talking about the treatment of love and death in Elizabethan and Jacobean drama through two representative plays, and the plays that we're having are Othello and the Duchess of Malfi, as you are aware. Spoke about what a tragedy is, because this is the chosen dramatic framework, whether we're talking about Othello or the Duchess of Malfi. So when we talk about a tragedy, we talk about a tragic hero. A tragic hero is the protagonist or the central character in a tragedy. We said that he is exceptional in terms of the achievements that he may have made, in terms of the family that he comes from, perhaps his royalty, perhaps he's noble in terms of social status. And he is, when we meet him at the beginning, he is happy and everybody is happy about him and for him. But for some reason, he has a flaw. I mean, not for some reason, he has a flaw or a weakness in his character, which makes no, because obviously nobody is perfect. So he makes a number of errors of judgment, and one of those errors is obviously fatal, and we move with him from prosperity and happiness to adversity and misfortune towards the end. How this comes out? It comes out in the form of a tragic death at the end. He dies very tragically at the end. So this is the trajectory of the tragic hero. And we're having Othello doing just that. Also, the Duchess of Malfi, the character is doing just that. So, what do the two plays have in common? Both of them are tragedies as frameworks or dramatic frameworks. And both of them have characters who marry beneath their rank and status. How is this unfolding? In the case of Othello, like you have seen, Othello is at the bottom of the social, of the color hierarchy. He is black, and he's reaching out to Desdemona, who is white. Obviously, we have a problem here. He, and this problem, I mean, we have what we call class fixity. If you're black, you stay within your own ranks as a black individual. If you want to get married, that's fine, but get married to somebody from within your ranks. Get married to somebody who is as colored or as black. If you're white, yeah, that's well and good and everything. If you want to get married to somebody who is also white. And this is not happening in our case because love is obviously color blind. So Desdemona falls for Othello, and Othello falls for her. And obviously, it is a problem according to the norms of the 15th and the 16th and even the 17th century. They shouldn't get married. What happens if they insist? We have the tragedy that you're seeing. This is as far as Othello is concerned. If you move to the Duchess of Malfi, we have a similar tragedy where we have the Duchess of Malfi, who is the queen of the land, and she is reaching out to somebody who is way beneath her rank, somebody who is a commoner from the perhaps middle or lower classes, and she wants to get married. She actually got married to him. Again, this is a problem, and obviously they are going to pay for that. Again, let me remind you of what we said about the period. And we said that this is part of the Renaissance, and the Renaissance is a time, and it is also a movement, a cultural and educational movement that started in Italy, but it didn't stop there. It was started in Italy in the late 13th century, perhaps, and it went all the way to the other parts of Europe. What is so characteristic of and about the Renaissance is that the people in the Renaissance felt that obviously focusing on traditions, I mean, medieval traditions with this obvious focus on religion will not help them move forward. They wanted something more than just that. They wanted science, they wanted non-secular knowledge, they wanted geography and geographical discoveries. Uh, um, so they skipped the medieval periods, then they went all the way to ancient Greece and ancient Rome, and that's why we're saying rebirth. So they dig deep into the Greek civilization, and they came out with lots of knowledge in the different fields, in philosophy, in the arts, in science, in physics. So this is what we call the Renaissance. It's giving a lease of life to an otherwise dead civilization and dead culture. Again, we're focused more on England because we're English major students and what happened to England as uh, a recipient of this kind of movement. So again, the English were lucky because at the time they had a very open-minded monarch, and of course, I mean Queen Elizabeth I. She was open to ideas. She funded geographical discoveries in the Americas and in any and everywhere else. She was a patron of the arts, and it is during her reign that we have those, artistic and literary luminaries like Christopher Marlowe, William Shakespeare, and others. So when we talk about the Renaissance, we also talk about the early modern times. So it's either the Renaissance or the early modern times. Again, we said that drama and tragedy, to be more specific, was the preferred, dramatic framework or artistic or literary framework. There was also poetry, but it wasn't as popular. Again, people were affected or still affected by the traditions of the mystery and morality plays of the medieval period, but that wasn't. The influence was not as big as the influence of tragedies. That's why the plays that we have in the Renaissance are all tragedies, but sometimes you have in some of the scenes and the acts, you can have the influence of the mystery and the religious and the morality plays. If we focus more, we're going to find that Othello, the play by Shakespeare, is a tragedy. And of course, the definition of tragedy has undergone um, changes, but the framework is the same. The trajectory is the same. We have somebody who is moving from fortune to misfortune, from happiness to adversity. Normally, with a tragedy or with the end of a tragedy, you have the death of the protagonist, who is normally a man of high birth and exceptional qualities and abilities. We call him the tragic hero. Uh, um, and the tragic he the in tragedies the protagonist is predominantly male, but we're going to see in very few instances we have a tragic heroine like we will see with the Duchess of Malfi. So a tragedy involves a conflict between a remarkable individual, the tragic hero, and a powerful shaping force such as fate, God, or authority, which limits his aspiration and finally destroys him. This is a very nice way of summing up what a tragedy is and what a tragic hero is. I would like you to focus on this definition of what a tragedy is, and let's talk about it. Let's perhaps unpack it and see what it is all about. I'll give you a minute to think about it. Think and divide it into small chunks and come to the mic and share insights about it. Okay. So who would like to come to the mic and share insights about the definition that we have just given? Raise your hand. Yeah. Mariam, go ahead.
So first of all, there are two types of conflicts: internal and external. And internal is between a protagonist and usually like things like his thoughts and his instincts that surrounds him in a particular situation, or an external conflict, which is against an antagonist or another person or a force.
Yeah, okay. Let's focus on the second part where you have the protagonist on one side, and obviously fighting and defying a force bigger than and a power bigger than himself. It can be authority, can be the traditions of society, can be religion, God, I mean, it can be faith, right? And obviously, you get defeated if you have a force that is beyond and above your abilities, and this is exactly what is happening. Okay, so we speak about somebody who has aspirations and who has ambitions, and those ambitions and aspirations are met by some kind of um, disapproval by forces beyond his control. Like if you think of the character of Othello, he is good in everything, and he has aspirations, and he wants to be recognized. He wants to be acknowledged in the Venetian society, and in order to do that, he gets married to a white girl. He believed that his services and his achievements will kind of speak for him. They are going to kind of approve of this kind of marriage because of his services and achievements. He doesn't know that he will confront forces beyond his control. Obviously, those forces are society, authority, the established order, that the hierarchies, the established hierarchies of the time that say, no, you're black and she's white. Okay, who gets defeated and who gets destroyed? Obviously, it's the individual, right? It's this tragic hero, this remarkable individual. So that sums up the whole idea. So, what do we know about Othello, the play? We know that it is a revenge tragedy. Revenge tragedy is a kind of tragedy that was also very popular at the time. And from the phrase, when I say revenge tragedy, of course, you know that it is all about revenge, people taking revenge from each other. And of course, there have to be reasons for this kind of revenge. But there is obviously more to a revenge tragedy than just the motives. It has a whole host of features and characteristics that we will talk about. In order for a revenge tragedy to be a revenge tragedy, it has to have a certain setup, it has to have certain theatrical props and all those kinds of. So Othello happens to be a revenge tragedy, and it is also a domestic tragedy. Domestic in the sense that it talks about the family affairs of a given group of people. We're talking about the family here. Um, when we talk about Othello, for example, we have a man and his wife. We have Othello and his wife, and this is obviously something familiar. And what happens between them happens within the family, you know, whether there is infidelity, jealousy, and all those kinds of things. So, in a revenge tragedy, the revenger struggles to find justice in a world in which the privileged abuse their power and fail to govern with fairness. Whether this applies to the plays that we're doing is perhaps very disputed, because the revengers that we're seeing uh, um, are are far from seeking justice. They were kind of trying to be, they are vindictive, like Iago, like Ferdinand in the Duchess of Malfi. So it may, I mean, this idea of having a revenger who struggles to find justice in a world in which the privileged abuse their power, this may apply to other places. But what we're seeing is pure vindictive kind of revenge, whether we're talking about Iago or we're talking about, you know, Ferdinand. So the aim of a tragedy, according to Aristotle, is to create catharsis. And by catharsis, we mean the purgation and the cleansing of strong emotions. We call it in Arabic tamfis. You have excessive feelings and emotions, and you're trying to get rid of those excessive feelings. And this is what you feel at the end of a tragedy. You feel that all your excessive feelings are spent. So you go out of the theater released, perhaps relieved of those kinds of excessive feelings. This is what we call catharsis. So the spectators and the members of the audience are supposed to leave the theater relieved. Again, this is if we're referring to Othello as a revenge, as a tragedy primarily, and as a revenge tragedy. We say that it is also domestic. It's a domestic tragedy where the focus is on the domestic realm of the family. We focus on, I mean, the life of a married couple. There is talk about love, which is obviously everywhere. So Othello, the play is the story of star-crossed lovers. Their love was not approved by society and ended tragically. What do I mean by star-crossed? Star-crossed, it means the stars were not in, they were not lucky enough. Let me put it this way. So again, Othello is the story of unlucky lovers, and their love obviously was not approved by society and ended tragically. Any reason why? I mean, because I said it before. Why their love was not approved by society? Anyone and everyone. Mary.
Simply because Othello is black, and I think from another lower rank, and Desdemona is white, and her father also is very against this marriage.
Yeah, because obviously they are they are transgressing against the established order, against the norms of society. Society says that there should be separation between whites and blacks, right? So obviously, Desdemona and Othello are challenging this established idea. Will they get away with it? Obviously, no. What else do we know about tragedies? We know that those tragedies normally focused on upper classes and marriage in these classes. And marriage within these classes was a political and an economic transaction. It's what was kind of a deal, a political and an economic deal. How about the desires and the wishes of the bride and the bridegroom? They meant very little. Nobody would ask the girl whether she loves the one that they have chosen for her or not. Obviously, her opinion meant very little, which is obviously very sad and very unfortunate. So Othello, the play, questions the nature and function of marriage and the social boundaries and expectations of society. So Othello is highlighting the idea of marrying for love rather than marrying for benefit. Again, Othello, the character fails. and their marriage failed because it was not meant to be because of their different races. So marriage for love in plays like those, like Othello and the Duchess of Malfi, involves not just defying the family's authority, but also marrying outside one's race or class. We're talking about Othello. Uh, Love fails either because of its internal weaknesses or external pressure. And in our case, we have both. We have internal weakness, the fact that Othello was jealous and he was perhaps credulous in the sense that he was naive enough to fall into the traps that Iago set for him, and external pressure because of the hierarchies and the established orders and the traditions of the time that would say no marriage between uh, a white individual and a black individual. So what do we see here?
I see the more picture.
What? Let's see what? Wait, let me
The,
go with
the
this.
more pictures.
Yeah, we have pictures of an individual, okay? European.
No, the tradition of the Arab.
It doesn't have to be Arab. If I mean, and people used to wear this way in Africa, in the Africa and
Is
North
it Africa?
Africa. Yeah. So
Yes, as
obviously we have
the
a
Meko or Jazan.
yeah.
I'm
He's
sorry.
colored,
As
not
the
very white.
Meko or Jazan.
Yeah, people at the time would come from North Africa. So obviously he's non-European to say the least. Again, this is a variation on the same picture where, as you can see, we have black individuals. Again, where do you expect these people to live? To live in Europe or in Africa?
I think in North Africa.
We're talking about, forget about North Africa and South Africa now. Okay, Europe or Africa?
Both.
Africa. No, I'm talking about the 16th and the 15th century. Way back, travel was not easy, and countries were not as open. They didn't have this idea of immigration. Europe is now perhaps 40 or perhaps 30% are non-Europeans in terms of color. They are black, they are South Asian, and stuff like that, right? But now I'm talking about the 16th and the 17th century, where Europe was for the Europeans and Africa was for the Africans. So again, you expect people like the ones that we're seeing, you expect them to be in Africa. So what happens if they go and live in Europe in the 15th and the 16th and the 17th? Would they be accepted?
No one like them.
No.
Unlikely. Okay. They wouldn't be accepted unless they are something. Um, unless they are ambassadors, and obviously they are very few, unless they are very skillful, like we have seen with Othello, who is a military leader and everything. What do you make of this? What kind of feelings would that trigger when you see that?
It's a black ram.
Yeah. Okay. So what kind of feelings when you see it?
Frightening.
Yeah, it can be threatening. Yeah, it can be. How about this one?
It's a white ew.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm juxtaposing them so that I can give you the feelings that Europeans felt when they saw the play, when this ram is compared to or likened to Othello, and this white hue is compared and is likened to Desdemona. So when Iago comes out or goes out of his way and tells Parapansio, the father of Desdemona, that a black ram is copying your you. He's referring to the daughter of Prapansio Desdemona as a ewe. A ewe, as you can see, is white, is meek, is very beautiful, while the ram is very threatening, as you can see. Can you see what kind of images we're having? And obviously talking about a man and a woman in those animal terms is far from ideal, right? When you compare a human being to a ram, yeah, obviously you mean something negative and bad, right? So
Yes.
who made those comparisons is it's none other than Iago. And as you're going to see, and as you proceed, you're going to see how animalistic in his depiction of people and situations Iago is. And you're going to always compare him and his animalistic imagery to Othello and his uh, concepts when it comes to love and to other things. So we're doing Othello, and we're doing Othello the play, and we're also doing two chapters from the textbook, and one of them happens to be chapter 1, Impediments to Love. So what do I mean when I say impediments? What do impediments mean?
Destined.
No, impediment is a noun, right? So impediments are obstacles or things that stand in the way. You're walking and something stands in the way and stops you from whatever stops you from proceeding, from moving forward. So in our case here, we have love, and this love is met with impediments. What kind of love and whose love it is? So obviously we're
The
talking
love of
about
Desdemona and Othello.
Desdemona. So, and there are impediments in the face of this kind of love, right? And those impediments, like we said, are both internal and external. Perhaps the focus is more on the idea of external impediments, where we're talking about society and its norms and its traditions, its established hierarchies and everything. Okay, so the title of the play is The Tragedy of Othello, The Moor of Venice. Okay, so if we unpack the title, we have the tragedy of Othello, and obviously you can have two senses of the word tragedy. Tragedy can mean we can refer to the literal meaning of the word, which means the suffering and the downfall of Othello. This is the literal meaning. And you can have the technical meaning, which means that we're talking about the dramatic framework that we call tragedies. The rest of the title is The Moor of Venice. So we're talking about Venice, and Venice is in Italy. And we're talking about a Moor. When you look at the word up, you're going to find that the word Moor, and I'm not sure if there is E, The Moor is a reference to the inhabitants of North Africa. We're talking about modern day Algeria or Morocco. So how come we're talking about Venice, and how come we're talking about Moors? And obviously Moors live in North Africa. So this is one of the contradictions that we're hit with right from the very start. We're going to try to establish a link or a connection between the two in the days ahead. So tragedy, sad ending, death of a great or a noble person. And of course, we're talking about Othello, who is the main character and the tragic hero. And we said that Moors are or were the Muslim inhabitants of North Africa, people who now live in modern day Morocco and Algeria. We're also if we talk about the place, because it's a play that has to have a place, we're talking about Venice. At one point, we're moving from Venice to Cyprus, but perhaps this is the subject of another day. So how much do we know about the Venice of the time? We know that it was a great center of civilization, and it was a city-state, a part of a very vast commercial empire, and of course it was the envy of the world. So people and countries and other city-states were envious of the achievements, the commercial achievements of Venice, and it's only natural that Venice had its enemies. Among them would be the Turks, the Ottoman Empire. Again, as of Act 2, we're moving from Venice to Cyprus, and Cyprus is an outpost of the Venetian Empire, and it's a sea outpost, which means that it can make Venice, vulnerable. I mean, the threats and the enemies can come from Cyprus. Cyprus is going to play a major role in the development of events in the play, as we're going to see. So when we talk about plays, we talk about acts. So if novels are divided into chapters, plays are divided into acts, and the acts are subdivided into scenes, mashahid. So normally if you have a tragedy is divided into 5 acts. And again, every act has a number of scenes. Typically, if we talk about Act 1 and Scene 1, we have what we call the exposition of the play. Exposition is more or less like the opening, some kind of introduction where the characters, or most of them, are introduced, where hints about what will unfold as we proceed are presented. We get to know many things about the main character, but the main character is delayed. He does not appear right away in order perhaps to create suspense and excitement among the audience. So what do we see? What do we have in Act 1, Scene 1? We have characters like Iago and Rodrigo, and we see them talk about things. Over time, there is going to be a context for what they are saying. We're going to realize that Rodrigo is in love with Desdemona. And obviously, now, if he is in love with Desdemona, Desdemona is already married to Othello. And obviously, Iago is somehow convince Rodrigo that he can do something. He can help him win the heart and the mind of Desdemona. So Rodrigo was rich, and Iago used to take money from him. And every time Rodrigo tells him, "What did you do?" and he says, "Yeah, you know, it takes time. I need this, and I need." Of course, they have a common enemy. We need to know that Iago also, when we see him, we get to know that he was not given the promotion that he has aspired for. He wanted. He works with Othello. Othello is his manager, and he is his boss, and there was this promotion, but it was not given to Iago. It was given to Cassio, and Iago believed that he deserves it. So Iago has every reason to feel bad about what happened and to have those kinds of grudges and those kinds of he started to nurse hatred towards um, Othello. So Rodrigo and Iago, when we see them, have a common enemy, and this common enemy is obviously Othello. Again, when we see them making fun. Uh, Othello, get to know that Othello is different in terms of race. His skin color is different from them. They are white and he is black, and that's why they are making fun of him. Um, so Iago's tone with reference to Othello is sarcastic. He's making fun of him, very ironic, mocking, and disrespectful. When he refers to him as, instead of saying, for example, um, um, he says his worship, and obviously this is a reference to the fact that he is Moorish and he comes from North Africa. And obviously it was something people wouldn't accept that somebody who is of a different ethnicity and color would come and dominate and everything. So obviously he was triggering those negative feelings towards Othello. So as you can see, and typical of tragedies and plays, we don't see Othello. In scene one, we see people talk about him, and obviously the excitement and builds up. But what the audience feel is that some kind of conspiracy or disruption is about to take place. These are the hints that I said we normally have in the exposition and the opening of the play. You feel that something is lurking, is uh, is fomenting, is going to happen, but not now. So when we also watch scene one, we get to know more about the character of Iago. We know that he is very clever. He has this inventiveness to his character. Inventive. He knows how to use words, uh, um, and things get clearer if you compare characters. So that's why perhaps we're having Iago and Rodrigo at the beginning, so that Iago can stand out as perhaps more clever, smarter, more at ease with conversations and how to use and manipulate words. So Iago, as you can see, is presented as a bluff. I mean, very frank and very blunt, and also cynical. So we appreciate his alertness and his readiness to attack those who he believes have been given preference over him, which means Cassio in this case. And he starts to even talk against Cassius, and he started to say that Cassius is a mere arithmetician. And arithmetician means, yeah, it is true that Cassio is also a soldier, but he is an arithmetician, which means that he knows about the abstract theory of war, but he doesn't know about the practicalities of soldiering, which means that he he knows about war, but only in theory. But when we have actual wars and actual battles, he would fail, and this is obviously very demeaning and very demoralizing. Again, we're still with Iago and his character. Uh, uh, um, um, when you see him, if he's not, if you're in his presence, he talks about you in a very nice way. But if behind your back, he would give very bad judgments about you. Um, and he says it يعني very buoyantly and very directly. He says, I'm not what I am. Okay, I'm not what I am. It's as if he is warning people or forewarning them. I'm not what you think I am. If I'm giving you the impression that I'm nice and everything, no, think about it again. He is someone who seems to be saying he will not show everyone who and what he is, thereby pursuing his peculiar ends, that is, his own specific aims and ambitions. So, what happens if somebody tells you, I'm not who I am? And obviously, you wouldn't feel comfortable dealing with this kind of guy or mm, girl for that matter. Um, Again, we're given the opportunity to listen to his speeches and watch his soliloquies. And over time, we get to know that he is very devious, that he is very bad, uh, and he has an agenda, a negative one. And this is clear from what he says about himself, and this is also clear from how he dominates Rodrigo. Again, we're trying to create a portfolio of Iago, and obviously it's a negative one, unfortunately. In one aspect of this portfolio would be, Iago's judgments and pronouncements on the characters, especially when it comes to Othello. And we're going to see that he is repeatedly referring to Othello in negative terms and also in racial terms. There is a racist element in his repeated references to Othello. He never mentions or he never uses his name. He says more. Like I said, he would refer to him as a black ram, as thick-lipped, and obviously these are all racist references to Othello, and if anything, they would tell you how racist Iago is. Um, Again, typical of plays, because those plays were written in blank verse, which is verse after all. It is free verse, it is true, but it is verse and poetry after all. We have this figurative language where you're going to find the characters using imagery, using figurative languages. So figurative language is this language that is used in non-literal way. At one point, you would see Iago saying or talking about him not wearing or wearing his heart in his own sleeve. Obviously, literally, no one ever really wears their heart on their sleeves, but it is an expression that conveys how it can feel to open one's heart to others unreservedly. So we have that. We have lots of characters, especially Iago and Othello, using figurative language. Again, this is part of a larger scheme that we call blank verse. So blank verse is this kind of poetry that is not restricted by rhyme. It is what we call free verse. It's unrhymed iambic pentameter. And obviously, um, it is meant to make the lines more memorable so that the characters can memorize them easily and know their lines when they act on the stage. So why did Shakespeare use blank verse? First of all, it is easy to say a line like this so that it sounds natural because the rhythm is based on the rhythm of everyday English speech, and also iambic pentameter of all the other types is easier to memorize than a longer line or more complicated rhythm. And this would have been very helpful to actors who at the time had to perform uh, prodigious feats of memory, performing as they did 6 or 7 plays a week. That's too much. So again, we're talking about the language that Iago is using, and here uh, he is shifting to, now that he is done with Rodrigo, or Rodriguez, he is going to focus on Parapancio. Parapancio happened to be the father of Desdemona. He's going to also provoke Parapancio, and he's going to use extreme animalistic language, language that is full of animal imagery, and we're not talking about, you know, um, animals that we all love and cherish, like lions and tigers, or even dogs. We're talking about rams, black ones, and obviously he means something. So his imagery are for the most part animalistic, like the reference to Othello as a black ram, and the reference to Desdemona as a white ewe. So he is saying an old black ram is tubbing your white ewe, and this is obviously very strong and very disrespectful and very gross. So the ram was associated with lust and sexual potency, and this is obviously a reference to Othello as being old. Um, um, so Othello's race is being connected during the time with rampant sexuality, darkness, and evil, because he comes from Africa and from North Africa. So obviously, Iago uses this kind of language to suggest that Desdemona is being sexually defiled. She is, according to Iago's imagination, being covered by a Barbary horse. The word Barbary refers to people in North Africa. Yeah, we even use it. I mean, we have, and then the word is used even in Arabic, Barbary. Again, that would lead us to some conclusions about Iago and his view of love. You can almost tell what kind of uh, 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 views they are. Of course, they are going to be negative. They are going to be animalistic. So, as you can see here, we're introduced to the theme of sexual love in terms of bestiality, racism, and evil. And this is obviously a constant feature of Iago's language. And this is how he represents love. Love for him means animal lust, and when it combines with the idea of racial difference, the standard imagery of racial or racial hatred is taken to an extreme. And of course, there is violence involved. Again, if we talk about Iago's views, we might as well talk about Prapancio, the father of Desdemona, another male, and obviously he reflects the mindset of his age, and obviously the mindset of his age is also about belittling women and thinking very little of them and regarding them as perhaps mere property. If we talk about the father-daughter relationship, it's a relationship of um, um, what? It's a relationship of a superior to an inferior, where obviously the male father is the superior in this relationship, and the daughter is a mere uh, um, um, a mere thing. I mean, not a human being with an independent mind who can think for herself. No, far from it. Desdemona, according to Parapancio, is more or less like a piece of furniture, property that he can dispense with the way he likes. So Parapancio thinks that some kind of witchcraft must have robbed him of his daughter. He believes that Othello practiced magic over here because he comes from North Africa, and at the time Europeans thought that North Africans practice magic. And this is, of course, uh, is not giving the daughter her due. He doesn't think that she made that choice very in an independent way. He does not believe that she's capable of taking a decision of that. This is obviously very belittling for the girl. So in some ways, Paravancio resembles the traditional figure of comedy. His attitude to his daughter and to women in general is that his daughter and other women perhaps are property and possession, something that can be stolen from him, which obviously suggests that it is his right to choose the man she marries. Again, this is very demeaning for Desdemona and for the women of her time. And then we move to Act 1, Scene 2, where we have the long awaited character of Othello. So obviously, we've been waiting for the guy for some time, right? Everybody talks about him, good and bad, and obviously it's about time that he comes on. Of course, we get to know somehow that he somehow knows what is going on and that people are not very appreciative of the fact that he got married to a white girl. And they are accusing him of all kinds of charges and accusations, and one of them, as you have seen, would be the fact that he exercised magic and witchcraft over Desdemona, because no right-minded girl, white girl, would have done what she did. They don't obviously realize that love happens and it knows no boundaries. So this is Act 1, Scene 2, where we will we'll see Othello and his language in action. But before we do that, I would like us to take a 10-minute break. It's 11:22 now. Let's have a break and let's meet at 11:30. How about that?
Okay.
Yalla, I'll see you at 11:30.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm back. Everyone, are we all here? You guys can hear me? Please raise your hands.
Yes.
Yes, doctor. Yes, doctor.
Okay. Okay. So am I loud and clear, everyone? Okay, nice. So let's go back to Othello. We're obviously starting scene 2, Act 1, scene 2, where we're having Othello, and the focus this time around is on Othello, his views of love, and also the kind of language that he is using. So before we get started with that, I would like to ask you to make a good guess about what kind of language you think Othello is going to use. Is it going to be as low as that of Iago? Yeah, Mariam, go ahead.
I think he's going to use more poetic language, like figurative, using metaphors and comparisons.
Yes. How about his views of love? Are they going to be similar to that of Iago and that of Parapansio?
No.
Yeah, absolutely not. Yes. So this is Othello, everyone. We've been waiting for his entrance for so long, and he is now with us. So how much do we know about him from his language? We are going to see that he is brief, he's eloquent, obviously very serious. He has, I mean, he is very proud and proud and not in a negative sense. He he is proud of his achievements, which are many. He inspires you with awe and authority and weight. And obviously, when you think of him and what he says, and you think of the kind of gross and kind of lascivious animal language that Iago and Rodrigo were using, obviously he wins. Um, and obviously you would think of what Parapansio said about him as a magician. You would feel very surprised that this is the man that Parapansio and the other guys were talking very bad about. Um, one of his poetic ways of referring to his services and achievements would be this statement that he said. He said, "My services shall outtongue his complaints." And obviously, his is a reference to Parapansius. So this is obviously a striking metaphor that conveys in a vivid. Excuse me. Let me close the door. So obviously, Othello is saying here that his services. This is obviously a very striking metaphor that conveys in a very, very vivid and compact way that his known virtues and achievements shall speak more loudly than Parapansio's accusations. I mean, he refers to other things, the fact that he is royal. Yeah, it is true that he is black, but it doesn't mean that they don't have royalty and kingdoms over there where he comes from. Um, he has a royal status. And he says that I don't brag. I don't go about telling everybody that I am a royalty. And again, he starts to kind of defend himself against the accusations of everyone. Um, Again, there is also this feeling that somehow uh, Othello is made to believe that he is inferior. He is cornered. He is normally put in positions where he has to defend himself, and that makes him very vulnerable. So when people tell you that you're bad, you're bad, you're bad, or you're weak, you start to internalize that, and it becomes part of you. You even believe it. So this is what is happening with Othello. Othello has a tendency to present himself to others as if he is not sure how they will receive him. he's not recognized, obviously, because he's black, and that's why he perhaps sometimes overdoes it in perhaps explaining himself and defending himself, stating the so many achievements that he made. Again, we have this idea that Othello, of course, is in love with Desdemona. Um, and obviously, when he talks about her, he talks about her in a very loving way. And obviously, you wouldn't compare what he says about love in general and about Desdemona to what the other guys are saying. So Othello's language has a rhythm and idiom that obviously contrasts sharply with those of many of the other characters. And we're not only talking about the Iago. I mean, his language gives this impression of space and vastness. And this is an example. See how, I don't want to spoil it for you. I would like you to read it for yourself, and you will kind of find right away how different Othello is. For no Iago, but that I love the gentle Desdemona, I wouldn't my unhoused free condition put into circumscription and confined for the sea's worth. Again, it's simply about this idea of unhousing. Unhousing here means that he is not a citizen, it is true, but he did more services than any other Venetian did for Venice. Again, he talks about, and see how he describes Desdemona, gentle. He talks about a sea's worth when it comes to his love for her, and also perhaps what he did for Venice. Obviously, when he used this word, the word unhoused, it reflects the fact that he is it is true that he is not a citizen. He, in the conventional sense, being born and he has a birthright and everything. No, it's not about that. It's he is a citizen of Venice because of what he did for Venice. So Parapansio may be housed as citizen, but he didn't do as much or as many when it comes to achievements. Again, we're still with Othello and his language and the images of nature that he is using. So when we see him or hear him speak, we have this profound sense of his difference from those around him. When he also uses the word free, we get to know that he was a slave at one, or he was enslaved at one point. So obviously he came a long way if he can break free and become a military leader in Venice. But obviously this is quite an achievement. Again, he's using very I mean, images from nature when he talks about the sea, the desert, the mountains, and obviously he's linking himself and what he does to those uh, um, images of nature. He doesn't restrict himself to life in the city again, because this is what his career is all about. It's about using the sea in battles. It's about going in deserts, and so it is a characteristic of Othello to create an image of himself as linked to the forces of nature, the sea, the sky, the deserts and the mountains, rather than to the order and manners of the city and civilization. So it becomes clear how much deeper and broader uh, Othello's life experiences is. Again, if you compare him to the other Venetians around him. Again, his language is very rich. Uh, and obviously, it affects all the people around him. Um, and I would like you to also contrast what Parapancius says about his daughter and what Othello says about her. So for Parapancius, and in his eyes, Desdemona is a maiden never bold. A maiden never bold means um, he's obviously referring to her as a meek, unindependent girl who cannot take decisions for herself. Um, she is the epitome of feminine modesty, according to her father, which means that she is incapable of making choices and taking independent decisions. And this is obviously very belittling, if you ask me. However, if you compare this to what Othello is saying about her, and very lovingly, he gives hints that she was independent in her choices and that she was willing to be courted and wooed, which does not mean that she was bad or something. Othello is trying to say, no, she is independent, she is mature in her decisions, and she came to this relationship very full-heartedly. Uh, uh, again, a reference to her independence. Again, we're in front of two views of women at the time. One, that of Parapanciu, that thinks that women cannot take decisions, they are not independent, and one that believes are parents, they can make their own choices and they can do a lot more than what society expects of them. Again, when you hear Othello speak, because of his poeticity, because of his creative imagery, you would feel that that there is music to what he says. And obviously, this is also something that some critics and scholars refer to. One of them is Wilson Knight, where obviously he focuses more on the musicality of Othello and his speeches. So the Othello music is obviously a reference to, which is a way of describing Othello's characteristically heroic mode of speech. Again, he may say that him being modest and humbling down. But we also need to know that even if it sounds sometimes that he is as he is rude, you need to also remember that he is a soldier and he's not accustomed to matters of domestic interest, such as love and marriage. And that this is perhaps what will eventually lead to those fatal consequences. But he is difference between his poeticity and his musicality skills and the prosaic kind of language that everybody else is using. So again, like I said, the one who kind of introduced us to this idea of Othello music is a scholar by the name of Wilson Knight. Obviously, he refers to Othello's poetry. Um, and we need not think that we are, when we talk about Othello, we're talking about him as a poet. No, we're talking about how elevated and musical his language is. He gives us the feel and the feeling of poetry, but it's the feel and the feeling of music. Again, remember that the space that he works within is that of love, and because he is freshly in love with Desdemona. And then we'll move on to a relevant idea, and the idea of Desdemona falling in love with Desdemona. I'm sorry, falling in love with Othello. And why she fell for, is it his language? Is it his stories? Right? So people keep asking, was she infatuated by the way he uses words, his poeticity and musicality? Or is it the stories that he used to tell? I remember at one point he was a friend of Parapancio who used to go to Parapancio's house. And it so happened that this Desdemona used to kind of overhear them. So perhaps she fell in love with his feats and achievements, killing this kind of guy, winning in that kind of gigantic battle. So it feels both moving and natural that a young woman, who we can assume has been closely confined by her father, and certainly has had the limited life experience of a patrician female, should love Othello for the dangers he had passed, and for him to love her that she did pity them. So this is a scenario among so many that, given her limited experience, given the fact that she was confined at home all the time, she may have fallen in love with Othello because he represents the outside world. And it's not merely the outside, it's the outside world of adventure, enchantment, dangers, because dangers have their appeal sometimes. Um, and he fell in love with her, I mean, responding in kind. She loved him and he loved her back. And this is the end of chapter 1, Impediments to Love. Now we're transitioning to chapter 2, and it's honesty and difference, men and women or women. But I'm not going to handle that today. I'm going to stop on this note and with this item. Uh, and we have time for questions if you guys have any. Do you have any questions? Okay. Right. On this note and with this item, we come to the end of today's class. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.